What do you get when a London-raised American South African and a New York-raised Moroccan meet on the interwebs and become instant soul sisters? One of them, an Ayurvedic practitioner and transformation coach, and the other, a Conspire Breath-Work coach and Reiki master teacher. Both obsessed with wellness, family, entrepreneurship, relationships, and the magic of human expansion and growth. You get a whole convo. We truly believe that with an open heart, focused mind, and energy receptive to the possibilities, your wellness journey can guide you to a life that exceeds your wildest dreams. Welcome to our podcast. We're Ella and Ymane, and we are so happy you're here. Come vibe with us as we explore the wholeness of being through the lens of wellness.
I think it would be nice for us to talk a bit more about what we do. You've mentioned you are an Ayurveda practitioner. So for people who don't really know what that is, Ymane, what is that? And how does that wholeness, the idea of your approach to wholeness translate into your work? What does that make available through the tools that you use in Ayurveda?
I love that question. First of all, I actually think that I was pulled and called towards Ayurveda and really mastering this ancient, incredibly powerful, science of India, because of its root in looking at the wholeness of things. It looks at the whole picture of not only the universe and the elements that are within us, that are in nature, and that also coexist in us, but also the wholeness of the individual and what their needs are mentally, energetically, spiritually, physically within those elements and what may be harmonized and what may be off balance. Again, coming back to that concept we talked about, what may be off balance for me may not be out of balance for someone else. Who's to say that's going to be the same structure? But when I now start connecting with what I actually authentically feel is off for me, then I can start, you said the word available, I can start exploring what may be available to me to bring balance back to me. So my whole story with Ayurveda actually began with my own health challenges, which, I think it's so beautiful. Most, right, is it's most practitioners or healers' stories is that they have, experienced a really challenging time in their life and they went and did the experimentation and the seeking and the discovery and were pulled to a way that connected with them, that aligned with, like, I really see it as so simple because there's a million and one modalities and ways. There is no right or wrong. It's just which one it feels most exactly aligned. So for me, it was Ayurveda because my personal health challenges a few years ago, before I decided to go really deep and serious with getting my master's degree in Ayurveda and integrative medicine, was it was anxiety, depression, weight gain, and chronic digestive issues. Like when I say chronic, when I went to a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner, which is also another modality that I actually adore and respect and love, when they did a little bit of the acupuncture and the needles, every organ in my like digestive system was like, I was tearing. I was in so much pain.
Wow.
It was just insane. And that, again, remember, that was the compound effect of my anxiety. We know now that modern science has shown the gut-brain connection, the anxiety, the depression, and the stress eating. The weight gain obviously, impacted the gut health. So anyway, it was just an insane vicious cycle that I went through for a couple years. And when I started doing my own discovery and my own experimentation and my own self-healing, I was blown away and fascinated by Ayurveda because it had such a remarkable way in explaining the depth and philosophies of how we exist. Like the elemental factors pull to me because I like, for those of you who do know about Ayurveda, then you know the doshas, but I'm a Pitta Kapha. So my elements are fire and water as far as like the majority of the ratio that exists within me. And then Kapha is the earth and water. So the grounding. And that resonated so much. I mean, I am so fiery And that's the thing too, like Pitta, Pitta Prakrtis or mind body types, they actually have a pretty, generally speaking, in comparison to others, a pretty strong digestive system. And that's why I was able to get away
So
with a
long.
lot. Exactly in the beginning that honestly you're not even aware of till like things start kind of malfunctioning. You're like, whoa, because you were so disconnected from like the balance of it all, right? So it kind of like helped, but then it was also like the other side of the coin is that that's usually what will go out of balance is the one that you have the most of, right? Because the no balance, then that's just too much. So long story short, I actually ended up learning so much just from self-studying that I healed my digestive system myself, totally changed my whole outlook on health and wellness because I come from a health and wellness background, but more on the fitness and nutrition side. I used to be a personal trainer. I was nutrition certified. So a lot of my work with clients in the past for over a decade was very focused on fitness and the physical health and nutrition and all that and very kind of, I would say a little bit like in a box kind of
Mm.
way where Ayurveda allowed me to explore the depth and the creativity and the multidimensional ways of what it is to be
Mm.
healthy. And so
The
I
different
that's
components of you specifically.
totally exactly the different components of who I am and how I exist, in all the aspects, right? The physical, the mental, the energetic, like you said. And so I just fell in love with it, changed my life, transformed my health, and I was like, I want to do this. What are the next steps for me to actually be a practitioner? Because I had a bachelor's of science degree at the time already, and I come from an upbringing, and we can brown parents, brown immigrant parents don't play with the education. So I
It's
come
the
from
whole convo.
That's a whole combo. So I come from a upbringing and household that is very, very serious about education and high level education. So, and not to diminish anything that's out there because there's so many great like studies and certifications out there. But me, it was like, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to get like a degree. Like my dad and mom were like excited about me being interested in this like new science and they know I always loved health so it made sense for them, but the first question my dad asked me was like, well, you're not going to get a certification online, right? Like you're gonna like this is like serious stuff.
Let's make it really, really official.
Like you're really going to do this the right way. And I'm like, dad, there are like great online certifications out there that give you the knowledge and
I
but it
love
made sense because I already had a bachelor's degree and I am such a geek. Like I'm a nerd. I love school. I was excited about going to university. And so I did my research. And actually, there aren't many universities out there that have masters of science in holistic wellness in Ayurveda. But I found one, I applied, I did 3 years of grad school, became an Ayurvedic practitioner. It's been over 2 years now, and it's just been one of the most remarkable aspects of my life, honestly. So yeah, that's the story.
I love that so much. And I want to go back to the beginning because I love the
Yeah.
how it grabbed you and all of the things. How did you find it? Was it something you researched? Was it something someone else recommended to you? How did you become aware of the potential for Ayurveda to support you in your health challenges?
Well, I am an investigator at heart. Like I am obsessed.
This is the reason I'm asking because I was chuckling. I was like, that sounds like such a one-line way of doing things.
Yeah, yeah. And for those who know about human design, I am a one line. I'm a 1-3. So research and study and experiment, baby. Like that's my ammo. That is my, and it resonates. Like that is so me ever since I was a kid. So I went to town, girl.
So it was you.
Oh, it was me. I dove so deep. But let me tell you, when things are aligned and they're for you, they don't pass you by. So in my little sphere of like insanely obsessive research and investigation, and I discovered Ayurveda and I started reading about it, of course, I would share things with my friends and like my dad, when I was sharing with him, he got me these books. So he got me these
Oh,
books and
love
sent them to me
him.
about Ayurveda. And so I started like reading the things he sent me as well. And then speaking to one of my really close friends who at the time was a nurse practitioner. And in school, she was telling me about how she's really intrigued by Ayurveda and then asked me, do I know this person who does this? And we started like digging deeper into that. And then she connected me with one of her friends who's actually going to India to get their like BAMS, which BAMS, it's like famous. It's like the, it's the bachelor's, it's the degree to do like Ayurvedic medical surgery and like it's like the top level of Ayurveda for those who want to be like Ayurvedic doctors. And so there's basically levels, right? There's like Ayurvedic coaches, Ayurvedic counselors, then there's Ayurvedic practitioners, which is like a little bit deeper. That's why it's a that's why we do case studies and clinical studies in certain hours. And then there's the Ayurvedic doctors and the Vaidyas, who've been doing this for basically for, decades and decades. So she connected me with someone who's going to India, who's from the States. They lived in Miami. They were super sweet. And so we talk about it. Everything started aligning, like not a surprise, obviously, right? So my world became encompassed with this beautiful ancient science. And when I started grad school, of course, you can imagine you just dive deeper, and then your classmates came from different worlds. Like my cohort in grad school had like people from like 20 something year olds to like 70-year olds in the class getting their masters. And it was just beautiful from all backgrounds, from all cultures. And my grad school was so incredible in the way they designed their courses because it is a master's of science degree. We had a medical doctor and an Ayurvedic doctor teaching us every single course. Every class we had two of them in each class. And that's how the lessons were taught. So we got an integrative Western medicine approach and understanding, and then the Ayurvedic approach. So it was just like, I mean, it changed my life, Ella. Like, honestly, one of the most incredible things. And that was, again, just following what feels aligned, following what felt most connected to me, and then getting excited about sharing it with others. And so here we are, like former personal trainer, former like like fitness professional, and then dove a little bit deeper into the holistic wellness because honestly that was always like my thing. Ever since I was a kid, I was into natural medicine. Our roots are, they're founded on that. Like we're tribal people. Like my grandmother would be cooking up concoctions, in the kitchen for certain ailments. Like that's our world, right? I'm African roots, Moroccan, so it's just an Amazigh at that. So really tribal. So that's like it's our home, right? It's what makes us feel safe, protected. And so I was always into that. So no one was surprised that I was doing like another avenue or another modality of holistic wellness. It just happened to be Ayurveda. And a lot of people are actually not as familiar. Like traditional Chinese medicine has came into the Western world a little bit more, earlier. So now the mainstream world would know what a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner or doctor is way more than like what's Ayurveda, what's an Ayurvedic practitioner. So that's another thing I'm excited about, like expanding on, and why I even started my YouTube channels to get people to just learn it and have them explore and see if it feels aligned for them.
Because there's a whole convo on Chinese medicine and how that's shown up in both of our lives as well. That's, for another day.
All right, I'm writing this down. I have my notebook. I'm writing all the whole convo. Oh,
all the whole convos
yeah.
that are waiting to be had. I love that so much. So I'm going to share about my experience.
Tell us about your
what
world
I
of
do.
breath.
See, do you know that? And a part of the reason I was laughing is how you researched and then went into the thing. So I'm a 3-5 line in human design. So the 3 line is, let's just try and see what happens. Let's just try and see what happens. Try and see what happens. And I say for me, breathwork found me. So my backstory with breathwork is I remember as young as I can remember, my dad doing yoga breathwork, specifically Kapalabhati. Now we could argue it's not really breathwork, it's more of a kriya, but we're not going to get into that. That's a whole convo. But he and I would, because it's very distinct sound. So for anyone who knows Kapalabhati breath, it's the sharp inhale and you're kind of pumping your stomach. So it's like,
Oh, I've seen people do yeah, and your whole entire like
yes,
stomach and diaphragm is in and out, in and out, in and
yes.
out.
And so that's a soundtrack of my childhood, hearing my dad
Oh,
early in the morning doing his breath work. So it's something that was always there. And having that exposure, it just meant that I didn't even really think about it as being a thing. It was just something you do, something that people do. So at various points through my childhood, I would have he'd sit me down. Let's do some yoga poses. Let's do this. Let's do that.
I love him.
Yeah, my dad,
Oh,
just that's a whole convo. And so we would do different types of breath work together, and it was just something that was there, part of my experience growing up. And then as I got older, I started taking on the responsibility of doing yoga myself, doing some yoga practice myself. And I found that it really helped to center me and calm me at challenging points in my life. And I hadn't made the connection at that point about how significant the breathing aspect was for that to be so in my experience. And when I became pregnant with Nyla, who's my youngest, I started doing pregnancy yoga classes at the local leisure centre in Greenwich. I wish I could remember the woman's name. She was this amazing woman, and I'd go there like 2 or 3 times a week, and it was a very turbulent point in my life. And I didn't realize how little I was breathing at that point in my life. And there was one particular practice. People talk about box breath. She called it box breath, but it was an entire different thing than what a lot of people refer to as box breathing now. And I remember it felt like it gave me some life back. It felt like I could start breathing when I was so panicked and I was so anxious and I wasn't breathing and I was starved of life force.
hmm.
And I would wake up in the night not being able to sleep, not being able to breathe. That's a whole convo. And it just soothed me. So that was a very poignant time. So that was 21, 22 years ago. And then I continue to have these points in my life where it was specifically yoga breathing that I was doing. So that's all kinds of different kinds of pranayama breath work that
Yeah.
was supporting me. No, I'm going to stop myself. I want to make the distinction between conscious breathing and breath work. Conscious breathing, for me, that was conscious breathing at that time. And then going back 11 years ago, I had a yoga studio. So we talk about health and wellness being part of in our bones, part of our experience, part of our careers as a longer term thing. And this is so true. And this is another place where our lives run in parallel. And
Mm,
I had a yoga studio, and the conscious breathing was a very much a part of that, being in the studio, running classes, running workshops, doing all of the things associated with the yoga lifestyle. Because a lot of people, when they think about yoga, they think it's just the physical aspect and the
right.
poses, but it's much more whole than that, and the
Totally.
physical poses are a means to something else. So I just happened to have one of the teachers who knew her friend was doing transformational breath work workshops. So invited her in. And at that point in my life, I had chronic anxiety. I was having regular panic attacks. I was experiencing a lot of PTSD episodes because of the challenges that had gone before, which is a whole convo. And it came to my life. I say it really found me, breath work as opposed to doing conscious breathing.
Mm,
Because from the first workshop that I hosted and the experience that I had, panic attacks stopped. And that was significant at that point in my life because I was doing all kinds of things, all holistic approaches, Reiki, meditation, yoga, reflexology, a myriad of things that were supporting me, but the panic attacks were still happening. So it wasn't until my first conscious breath workshop that they stopped.
Wow.
And I say they stopped because I took the practice with me and I
What
practiced
does that
every
mean
single day.
exactly?
I practiced every single day. Because
Mm.
what tends to happen, and I know this from running workshops myself, people come, they have an experience, and the experience can be quite big and it can be like quite a peak experience at the time. And oh my goodness, wow, I can't believe this is what can happen when I breathe, and this is amazing. And then it's left there. But I took that practice with me because of how significant it felt for me. And I
Mm.
say it felt as though it just made sense. And with retrospect, I can say it's because of all the ways that breathwork has traveled and conscious breathing has traveled with me through my life from a very, very early age. But I'll also say it's because of the significant difference I felt in my body, in my breathing, because my breathing was so challenged throughout my life, in the clarity I had emotionally, mentally, physically, and energetically from that one session, that for me, it felt too important to not take it with me.
Mm.
So
I feel that.
yeah, so it's lived with me. It's been a part of my life for the last 11 years. And it's so many things about that come through. So then I decided, right, I'm going to go and train. I had no idea other than this first
Oh.
workshop that I'd done. So in true three-line fashion, I was like, I'm going to go do this. And it was interesting because I had a bit of a tussle with myself. And I remember this specific thought, who are you to be
Mm.
a breathwork practitioner? Who are you to be someone who goes and supports people doing this? So there was a slight hesitation, doubting myself and questioning myself. But then I went on to do the training literally the next month. And that's that. And it's great to hear you talking about how seriously you looked for the correct qualification given the parameters that were offered to you by your family, and how it there was a desire to do things a certain way. Because I think a lot of the training that I did actually fits very squarely within the experiences that you had. I had to do a certain number of hours. I had to do case studies. I had to
Yeah.
do, exams and things like that. But I haven't got a qualification, like a master's, but it's that kind of standard. I think I've done over 5,000-6,000 hours or something. So
Wow.
that's how breathwork found me, and that's how I was like, yeah, I'm gonna try this and see what happens. And my training was, I have so many fond memories. I have so many challenging memories around it. It helped me understand myself, to grow as a person, to really hone the potential of what happens when we understand our breath. And we know that's a whole convo. And from there, from my training through my personal experience, because that's always it's where it starts from, as you said, and
For sure.
the experience of my practice. And there were moments where I was helping train other people and going through a deeper understanding from a teaching perspective. And then I went on to develop the work that I do. And I love how working with clients in whatever capacity, whether that's one-to-one, in groups, online, in person, continues to inform my understanding and continues to invite me to show up more, to make the connections, to go deeper, to see
100%.
things, the rhythms, the consistencies, the regularity that things show up in people with the most diverse life experience and the most diverse, and we could argue conflicting or conflicting views and perspectives of life. And that's the humanity that we all share, no matter what we think, no matter how it may be presented to us. We may be asked to express ourselves in the world, or we wear a particular badge of a certain community, and it's just mind blowing. So yeah, I think that's a good place to leave that bit of my experience, and just even hearing that, actually thinking about what you said, a lot of the reflections that exist, one line and a three line. Human design's a whole convo in itself, but it just always makes me chuckle when we can see ourselves in someone else and also see how we go off on our different little tangents according to what feels natural to us.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think you said so many beautiful things. One of the most powerful aspects about being a practitioner or a guide or a coach for someone who is seeking that kind of elevation in their life through the modality that we teach is that when we are the type of person and practitioner and guide that embodies that work and that resonates so deeply and genuinely with that work, it is such a more powerful and more potent outcome and result for the person we're working with
Mm,
because there's a connection in that consciousness. One of the
mm,
first things I learned in grad school, one of the Ayurvedic doctors was sharing the basically his understanding of what a practitioner actually means. And he shared such a beautiful statement. And he was saying that our level of consciousness and basically what our connection to our own consciousness is immediately connects with that person's consciousness when we're in that space of guiding them towards, what they're there for. And that consciousness is what basically is doing the work.
mm.
And
That,
so if we're the kind of person that is in tuned, right? Like you said something so like beautiful, which is you said breath work found me. And it's like it's because you were living in this consciousness that brought it to your life. You magnetized it to your life because of your needs, because of what you want. And I really deeply believe in that. I don't think that our resources, the people we meet, look how we met, nothing, the teachings, the education, the studies, whether it was through this way or this school or this certification, if our intention and if our consciousness is connected to deepening that level of study and to really master this art and this science that we are committing to, that nothing will be left out for us, not the education, not the people. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just all part of our consciousness and our depth of wanting that because it lives in us so deeply.
mm. And I think it is a beautiful way to express it. And it also reminds me of how important it is to have different people's voices to speak on these things, and the way that those different voices connect and resonate with different people. Because I would never express it in the way of like my education or a desire to know about something. And let me explain that. I want to know about everything. I'm curious about everything. Oh, this. Oh, okay. Let me find out more about. This. It's almost a bit erratic at times how much I'm like, let me find out about things. And it's from the perspective of I'm just so open to seeing what's out there. And it will never be from the point of view of, let me find out first. Let me try it first and then see where that takes me. And then you've expressed it from the perspective of, let me find out all about it and then go as deep as I can, and then I'll go and try it. And they are just such delicious ways of approaching things, and the expression that comes from both of those different ways is just so perfect. And and it's needed and required, and that
Yeah.
consciousness and your expression of it connects with someone in a certain way. And then the way I just like, oh, let's see what happens, connects in another way, and brings the things for us, brings the things to us, allows us to keep evolving as human beings. And that consciousness thing is very powerful, because when we think about, I hear I hear this with clients feeling as though their journey isn't that significant, or it's not that important, or there isn't actually, it doesn't make any difference whether or not they choose to go one way or another in their lives. And I feel like it couldn't be further from the truth. Every single part of our journeys, our individual journeys, and our experience, and our desire to be connected in life, our desire to learn more, our desire to heal, our desire to go out and meet new people, to have the conversations, feeds into the consciousness of the whole. And that's how we evolve and move forward as a species. It all matters.
I couldn't agree more. So well said. There's a whole lot to say. There's a whole lot to say, seriously. And I'm just so excited that we can share all the things. And I look forward to so much more.
I would love for there to be spaces where the deeper conversations can be had. And this is part of the reason that we are creating this. So,
Ooh, I think we need to end on that note. Goodness gracious, child.
and I have to censor myself, or to just like, okay, let's stop it there, because otherwise I'll talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk about it, because
It's okay, you're allowed here, baby. It's our podcast.
absolutely. But do we have 6 hours?
Editor, will you help us?
If you had to leave us with a parting thoughts, a parting gift about the impact you would like to offer through Ayurveda and the conversations around this, because I asked this and I say what I said, knowing that actually it includes everything I said. You asked me and I said all of it. And I stand by that through breath,
Yes,
and
you
the
did.
way that I understand it and the way that I work with it, we touch all of it.
Mm. Wow, okay, first of all, love that question. And I'm gonna ask you the same, and that's how we're gonna end this today. But when you just said something that gave me like a little light bulb, which is the impact you want to make and like what you want to share. I don't know if this were the way you said it exactly, what you even intended or meant, but you said revolves around breath, because that's how much of an impact it has made. And in you saying that, it's not necessarily Ayurveda, but there's something that I learned through my studies in Ayurveda and what called me to become an Ayurvedic practitioner, which is this one thing, which is the inner intelligence. I I don't feel like my life would have been the same if I didn't understand or discover the power of what inner intelligence means. First of all, it allowed me to trust myself again, which I think was like one of the main aspects of how I disconnected from self at the beginning. That led me to that person that I couldn't even recognize, to the stress eating, and the woman that I was like, this is not me, and this is not no shame. Like, I love me a big girl. This wasn't about like the physical aspect of it being like less than or uglier than, or that, or giving like what being fat for me was like. It was literally, the truth was, it's not me. If I felt better and felt gorgeous, like I know many people do, and they freaking do it so beautifully, it wouldn't have been a thing. That's why it's not just about that. It's, are you genuinely, deeply, authentically connected with who you truly are? And so for me, I think that's the most important thing that I'd love to, like, anyone who's listening in or anyone who discovers our podcast to always feel like, is it them? Is it their authentic self they're being today? Is it their authentic inner intelligence that is feeding them the food, the thoughts, the conversations, what they're watching? If it is 100% inner intelligence, authenticity, that for me is like absolute wellness and wholeness and health and vitality. And so that's what I would say.
Oh, I love that. So many things, so many things, so many things. And I also feel like this is the perfect space to say thank you. Thank you, Ymane. Thank you to everyone who's been listening. This has been a whole convo with Ella and Ymane.
That is a wrap on this week's Convo. We had a blast talking to you.
Thank you for sharing your time, hearts, and minds with us.
We hope this episode left you thinking, feeling, and maybe even breathing a little deeper. If it moved something in you, please share it, text it to a friend, or just sit with it.
Remember, the power of change can start with the simplest convo.
And if you have any comments or thoughts you'd like to share with us, please feel free to do so. We'd love to connect with you. Don't forget to subscribe to our show so you never miss a moment of the magic. And if you're curious about any of our services and offerings, check out the show notes for all the links and goodies. We're so grateful you're on this journey with us. Until next time,
stay rooted, stay whole.